طيب بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, we continue and we probably have this lesson plus another 2 lessons left. Inshallah we will continue today and get through as much as we can, and then the next 2-3 weeks, and then inshallah we'll start a new series shortly after that. تفضل يا عبد الرحمن. up to verb في أن الأعمال في الزاهد هي في أن الأعمال هي الزاد والذخيرة النافعة يوم المعاد.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أما بعد, the good deeds are the provisions and useful supplies on the day of final return. Number 162. From Farih al-Murri from Al-Hasan al-Basri that he said, the believer will rely on what he has put forth from deeds while in his grave. If it is good, then good will be for him, and if it is bad, then bad will be for him. So seize the opportunity to hasten to do good deeds. May Allah have mercy on you during the times of respite, that is free time.
Now, a person, as he knows, he's going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his actions now are going to dictate how he's going to be in the hereafter after the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the one that wants to find goodness, then he needs to prepare that goodness. A person who lives wishful thinking, thinks that I'm going to live however I want and then I'm going to find goodness there, we say you're not going to you should not expect goodness on that day, because you haven't prepared anything. If a person wants to sleep in until 2 p.m, watch TV until 8 p.m, hang out with his mates until 2 a.m, come back and sit on TikTok until 5 a.m, and then say, inshallah, through these actions, I'm going to be a millionaire. We say, you're fooling yourself. Same thing, the person who doesn't do good in this life, while he has the ability for him to expect those high levels in Jannah, that goodness on the day of judgment, we say this person that you're fooling yourself. Rather, the believer prepares for that day, and that preparation only comes through the good deeds a person prepares, and he's asking Allah Azza wa Jal to grant him that goodness on that day. Continue.
Number 163. From Mansur that Mujahid said concerning Allah's statement, and do not forget your portion of this worldly life. Your current life is for the purpose of performing deeds in it for your next life. That is for the hereafter.
Mujahid is one of the great scholars of tafsir. He's from the Tabi'een, and he's from the great scholars of tafsir. He says regarding the ayah, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, and do not forget your portion of this worldly life. He looked at it from the perspective of ibadah. Don't forget nasibak, your portion of this worldly life, and don't forget to do acts of worship in this dunya to prepare you for the hereafter. The ulama in general, they say from this verse, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا, don't forget your enjoyment of this dunya as long as it's within the halal. You're allowed to enjoy this dunya, eat good, exercise good, visit, travel, enjoy, no problem. All of these things are allowed, but within the guidelines and the parameters of Islam. Don't allow the dunya to lead you to haram or be an obstacle between you and the haram. He looked at it from a different angle, which was, don't forget your acts of worship in this dunya, which will help you go to the hereafter. Okay, continue.
Number 164. From Malik bin Dinar that he said, it is written in the Torah, as you treat others, so will you be treated. And as you plant seeds, that is actions, so will you reap its consequences.
كما تدين تدان. كما تدين تدان, as you treat, you'll be treated. This is an Islamic concept. Al-Jaza' min jins al-amal. Al-Jaza' min jins al-amal. The recompense is in accordance to the actions. The recompense is in accordance to the actions. As the Prophet ﷺ said, "Irhamu man fil ard, yarhamkum man fis sama." Have mercy on those on earth, the one in the heavens will have mercy upon you. So as you treat, you'll be treated. Some brothers, unfortunately, they use terms like karma and the like. These things are shirky beliefs. These are not from the religion of Islam. Even though the concept may be very similar, but karma is not attributed to Allah Azza wa Jal. Whereas we attribute the dealings in this universe only to Allah Azza wa Jal. So a person needs to be very careful in using terminologies that go against Islam and Tawheed. Write it down. Write it down, write it down. You say don't forget, you. Any questions, brothers, write it down and ask at the end, inshallah. So a person needs to be very careful in using terms and or concepts that go against Islam and Tawheed. A person may be committing acts of shirk without him even knowing. So he needs to be very careful regarding that. As for the Islamic concept, yes, what goes around comes around, in the sense that as you treat, Allah Azza wa Jalla will place those who will treat you the same, etc. Now, the Kama Tadeen to them, it's not a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. There is a narration, but they're weak. There are narrations, but they are weak. But just the second part, it's what we're getting from this particular chapter. As you reap, you will sow. What you reap, you will sow. You didn't pray on time. You cheated people. You spoke without knowledge. You misguided people. You were a reason for people to be oppressed, etc., etc., etc. Then on the day of judgment, don't blame yourself when that's what you find. Sorry, only blame yourself when that's what you find. You say all bad on the day of judgment. Then who put it there? Who forced you to do it? And this is a very, very, very neglected concept in our minds today, that what we do, we are going to see in the future. What we do now, we're going to see in the future. And you see how neglected it is from the reality of our lives. And when you see someone, for example, commit haram in secret, this is understandable. As human beings, we have weaknesses. We're not always alert with our iman. Our iman goes up and it goes down. Sometimes a person commits a haram, it's in secret, he feels guilty, he asks Allah for forgiveness, etc. The only person he affected was himself. But you see the extreme negligence in what we have, for example, 24/7, people living their lives online and glorifying the haram that they do. And how many brothers, you'll see them this Friday, you'll see them in Salat al-Jum'ah, and then for those that have TikTok, and again, if you have TikTok, please, delete it. You see those that have TikTok, that same guy that was listening to the khutbah, the whole khutbah, and looking, and Allahu Akbar, was affected by the khutbah. That same bloke is dancing on some barrel on TikTok on Friday night at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning with girls. La ilaha illallah. I don't understand what happened. What did the Khateeb say? I don't understand. He was affected. He loved the khutbah. Shaykh, what a khutbah, tabarakallah. Jazakallah khairan. Like that same bloke is doing whirly twirlies and dancing and telling the people, Arna Dana, and there's a lion. Like, what's going on? What happened? What happened? Wallah, it's sad. He gets excited. You got 10,000 views, 100,000 views. Allahu Akbar, it went viral, 1 million views. Yeah, but what went viral? 1 million views of people playing you, for example, with a girl who's not dressed properly, with music in the background. All of that is written against you. All of that is written against you. Or for example, the girls and their Instagram and their Snapchat, and they get happy. Look at me, I've got 50,000 followers, I've got 100,000 followers, and every video she's doing, she's dressed more inappropriately than the next. This is not haram in secret that you're committing. This is haram where you're affecting not just yourself, but tens of thousands of others, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of others. And you're going to have to do with that as a consequence. This is an extremely dangerous concept. People, they don't think about what's that going to mean for me on the day of judgment. What you want and what you're excited about are all of the good deeds that you don't even remember doing that you see on the day of judgment. And if, for example, they were building a masjid and you donated what you could, you forgot about that $1,000 or $10,000 that you gave. You completely forgot about it. Imagine coming on the day of judgment and you have literally trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of hasanat. Why? Because for the next 100, 200, 300 years, you had people praying in there every day, reading Quran in there every day, giving lessons in there every day. From there, people went and raised good families. They taught them. Maybe there was a sheikh that came out and taught a whole country, whatever it is. You forgot about that sadaqah that you gave, but it's in the background building and building and building and building and building your hasanat. That's what you want to find on the day of judgment. That's what you're excited about. Maybe you gave a nasiha, maybe you gave one word, one piece of advice to a brother, it made him change his whole life. And so he sits there making dua for you day and night. That's what you want to see. Maybe you have a righteous son who after you, when you pass away, he makes dua for you and he does good deeds on your behalf. That's what you want to find on the day of judgment. That's what you're excited about. Imagine, ayadhan billah, saying the opposite. You get resurrected on the day of judgment, and you have your good deeds, and you have your haram that you've done. But on top of your haram, you got mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains of other sins. Where did that come from, Ya Allah? That's your sins that you committed, and you affected others to also sin, and now you are also held accountable for what they've done from wrong. Where did that happen? Why did that come? Because that's what you've done, and now you are just reaping what you sowed. So we need to be very careful and very mindful of only putting forward what we want to see. That which you want to see on the day of judgment, this is when you prepare for it. Ibrahim ibn Adham, and one of these narrations came with us. He was asked, why do people hate dying? Why do people hate dying? Why do people so scared of death? Why do people not want to die? He said to the meaning, because people have built their dunya and destroyed their hereafter. And nobody wants to go to something, from something that he's built to something that he's destroyed. Unfortunately, we have even forgotten that we even go into a hereafter. We've even forgotten that far. As if, khalas, we're not going to die at all. This is, wallah, a very, very, very sad concept. It's a very sad notion, and this is something that we as students of knowledge can't afford to have. Again, the whole book, the purpose of it is that our knowledge will be producing action. And so for us, we can't live how another person who's negligent lives. We can't be committing the haram that they commit. We need to be far above that. Not for us to have pride and look down and say, we're Allah's chosen people and you people are all people of the hellfire. No. We should be more humble, and we should thank Allah Azza wa Jal for allowing us to sit in these blessed gatherings. And allow us, we should be thanking Allah for allowing us to be learning what we learn. And how do you thank Allah Azza wa Jal? Not only through saying it or feeling it in your heart, but through the actions that follow. Through your extra acts of worship, and through you being further away from the haram. And when you look at the people, wallah, you should feel sorry for them. And this is where your advice to them comes. That don't live like this. Don't act like that. Many of us, we have family members that are in that exact situation. Whether it's brothers or sisters or cousins or uncles or aunties. Some people, their children are like that. Some of their friends, their colleagues, their classmates. How far away they are from the deen. And they live as if the day of judgment is not going to come. These are types of advices that we need to ensure that we give them. Continue.
Number 165. Abdurrahman, that is the son of my brother
Al-Asma'i.
Al-Asma'i, recited to us from his paternal uncle, saying, a man from the inhabitants of Basra recited the following poetic verses to me. There is nothing for you on the day of resurrection except for that which you have prepared as a provision before death for the day of gathering. If you don't plant the seeds and anticipate the approach of the harvest season, you will regret having been negligent when the time was right for planting.
Sahih. Continue.
Number 166. Sufyan would recite the following poetic verses from Al-A'sha.
No.
If you don't set out on your journey with the provision of dutifulness to Allah, and you encounter after death, he who came well prepared with provisions, you will regret not having been like him, and not having prepared yourself with that which he prepared himself.
No. Continue.
Number 167. On the authority of Hassan al-Basri that he will recite this poetic verse during the morning and night. The young man is happy with what he has put forth from dutifulness to Allah, when he becomes aware of the sickness that he is fighting against.
No, from the haram, from the disease of the heart, from the fitna of the dunya, etc. He gets happy when he's righteous. But when a person is negligent of that, then he falls into the traps that he falls into. He falls into the traps that he's falling into. This is part of that negligence that people, unfortunately, they have. And this is what leads them to that negligence. And in a country like Australia, between you and major sins is a hair. Just a hair, that's all it is. And between being decently religious and major sins is just a hair. And if a person is not constantly on the ball constantly on top of his game, constantly aware of his actions and his surroundings, the environment, very easy for him to slide straight over into the major sins. And a lot of places where there's a decent environment, not the best environment, just a decent environment. Even if you're not properly religious, you're still not falling into major sins to a big degree. Whereas in Australia, it's normal. It's normal for people to commit zina. It's very easy for you to drink alcohol. It's very easy for you to get tattoos. It's very easy for you to gamble. It's very easy for you to go and disobey your parents and not care and go do your own thing. It's very, very, very easy. Extremely easy. Whereas in a lot of other places, those things aren't as easy. And so you have a lot of room there. La qaddar Allah, even if your iman was to drop and you were to go towards the haram, it's usually the minor stuff, and it takes a long time before you get to the major stuff. Whereas here, you'll find right now, if you want, 1 million people to go to haram with, and 1 million places to go to haram, very easily. So when do you become happier at having that taqwa, and when are you more aware of that taqwa? When you know the diseases and the problems that are out there. As soon as you become negligent of that, and you start to take it easy, then you find yourself, unfortunately, slipping off very badly. A lot of brothers, the ones that are religious or were religious, and then you find them out of nowhere fall into so much haram, a lot of it goes back to this. Where they started to neglect how bad the bad was. They started to neglect how bad the bad was. For example, he's a decent brother. He prays, he comes to the masjid, etc. But he forgets how bad it is to hang out with bad people. And so he keeps the company of bad people. How quick do you think that person can fall back into the haram? Now he was religious, he was upright. Out of nowhere you see him, for example, listening to music again. Out of nowhere you see him smoking again. Out of nowhere you see him swearing again. Out of nowhere you see him with girls again. Why? How did he drop so quickly? Because he kept that distance so close between him and the haram, where he was hanging out with bad people still. So when he slipped and he went. He slipped and he went. You need to constantly have those warning signs, those caution signs, constantly around you, especially as a student of knowledge. And as we go into the future, you're going to see a lot more students of knowledge, okay, bayna qawsayn, okay, in inverted commas, students of knowledge that it seems that they're religious, but they drop extremely far. And someone's going to say, how can a sheikh end up like that? How can a student of knowledge end up like that? In the West especially, don't be surprised. Because like I said, it's only that hair. It's only that hair that separates the two. And so a person from being religious and righteous and upright, because he's in an environment where it's so easy to fall down, and when you fall down big, a lot of people are going to slip. A lot of people. So us as students of knowledge, we need to do our best to make sure we're extremely far away. And one of the ways to achieve that is to know how dangerous what they are in, how bad it is, in order for us to stay away from it. As soon as you lose sight of that, the value of your taqwa, the value of your ihsan starts to drop, and you end up going closer and closer and closer until ayadhan billah you fall into it. Continue. Actually, before that, one of the biggest tricks of shaitan is to get you to accept the haram. Even if you don't do the haram, but to accept the haram. This is one of the ways that the LGBTQIA plus community spread so quickly. We think, in the last 5 years, they spread their wings and they took over everything that quickly. No, it wasn't in the last 5 years. It was in the last few decades. But they got you to accept it without you realizing. As an example, who remembers the movie like Big Mama's House? There was a Big Mama's House with Marlon Lawrence, when he dressed up as his fat auntie or grandmother, whatever it was. Remember that movie? How many of us as kids, this is just an example, how many of us as kids, we were laughing at that show, that movie? We thought it was, wallah, what a hectic movie. Naam, it was funny, it was hilarious, Ma'arif show. I can't remember the exact movie, so if there's any bad scenes, no one go watch it, okay? This is just as an example because I remember that from a young age. In that movie, what he's doing is a major sin. Is a man allowed to imitate a woman? He's not allowed to imitate a woman. The whole movie is based on a major sin of a man cross-dressing, and we're sitting there like as if it's nothing normal. Or the other one, famous one, White Chicks. Again, don't get what these are rubbish movies. But to give you examples of how not us as Muslims, the whole world's blindsided. We're not paying attention. The whole world is watching this movie and they're enjoying this movie. What a mad movie it was. Where again, the whole thing is about two men dressing up as women for the whole movie. And we accepted it and we laughed at it. We accepted it and we laughed at it. And we thought it was funny. What was happening to us subconsciously? We're just accepting these concepts. We're becoming okay with it. Even though we say we would never do it. We would never do it. But it in the subconscious became normal. We accepted the sin. So then when they actually come out with it, and then the next thing you find the whole world suddenly wants to turn gay, don't be surprised. Because there was a lot of work put into it. Same thing when it comes to the haram. When you hate the haram, you despise the haram, you don't want to go near the haram, it's not easy to fall into the haram. When does it become very easy to fall into the haram? When you love the haram. When you love the haram. When you want to be around the haram. When you glorify the haram. When you think that the haram is cool, etc. That's when you find yourself slowly moving closer, and you don't even realize. You just find yourself slowly moving towards it. You're not even paying attention until one day you wake up and your whole life is surrounded by haram. Your whole life is surrounded by haram and you haven't even paid attention to it. People, good people are telling you, stay away from it, and you think, bro, what's this guy talking about, man? But I still love Allah, I'm still good, I still pray on time, I still do everything. Which is correct. The shaitan will leave like things like the prayer. The last thing that the shaitan will remove is your prayer and your bead. Because these are two things that make a person feel religious. The prayer is obviously the best, but the bead makes a person feel religious, that he grew up for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, because it's the sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So it's outwardly. But you find everything else. I mean, the guy out of nowhere, he never used to smoke. Now he's got no problem smoking, vaping. Him on Snapchat smoking and vaping. I mean, out of where? Him on Snapchat, with a cigar, with Biggie in the background. Out of where? Where'd you get all of that from? Why going to this place and with girls? Where did that all come from? You're a decent brother, you know halal and haram. He's falling into it without him even realizing. And if you were to ask him, are you religious? He's going to say, yes, of course I'm religious. Of course I'm religious. But because of that here, he slipped right into it. Where did it start? Through the acceptance. The acceptance, it being cool, he's hanging out with mates that do it, etc. Him losing sight of how bad the haram actually was, until he got closer and closer and closer, and he eventually, a'udhu billah, fell in. Allah Azza wa Jalla keep us steadfast on his deen. Continue.
Number 168. Yahya bin Ma'in will recite this verse. If you are lacking provisions, you will not find any provision quite like that of righteous actions.
Verse here meaning bait of sha'r. Naam, like a line of poetry, not a verse of Quran. طيب. Continue, Abdul Rahman. SubhanAllah, every time we put that we're going to take this chapter and this chapter, we've never gone past the first chapter that we put. And today when we didn't put what chapter we're going to go to, we'll go to the second chapter. Yallah. Bismillah.
Taking advantage of youth, health and free time, and hastening to do good deeds before the occurrence of that which will cause these things to cease. Number 169. From Abdullah bin Sa'id bin Abi Hind, from his father, from Ibn Abbas, that he said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, free time and good health are two blessings from Allah that many people take for granted.
Ibn Abbas, Sahabi or not Sahabi? جيد. رضي الله عنهما. Why do we say عنهما? Good, because his father was also Muslim. Now Abdullah bin Abbas, his father and him were both Muslims. So عنهما, both of them. Okay, one Sahabi رضي الله عنه. One Sahabiya رضي الله عنها. Plural رضي الله عنهم. جيد. Here he says that the Prophet ﷺ said, free time and good health are two blessings from Allah that many people incur loss. الفراغ والصحة نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس. And this is true. how many people, they have free time and they have good health, and they don't take advantage of it. Rather, they either waste it on literally nothing, and this is mainly a new phenomenon, where we waste on absolutely nothing, or they waste, and this was more common, they waste on things which don't bring back much benefit. And for example, a person, he will be in his prime, now prime in terms of ability to learn, ability to do whatever he wants, to prioritize whatever he wants, and he wastes it. For example, a person, young boy, mashallah, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21 years old, he's got 5-6 hours a day free. Free, he can do whatever he wants. He'll go and play soccer for 3 hours, go to the gym for 3 hours, or he'll watch movies for 5 hours and go hang out with his mates for an hour. This is prime time for him. He can do whatever he wants, he can do whatever he chooses. And he finds, he just looks, how can I waste my time? How can I kill my time? This is problematic. This is problematic. Most of you are at the age where this is what it's talking about. When you have free time, and tabarakallah, you're healthy, invest it in what's going to bring back the most return. What's going to bring back the most return? And if you talk about, for example, seeking knowledge, if you're planning, I want to be a sheikh, inshallah, this is prime time for you to study, for example, the Arabic language, to study, to memorize the Quran. This is prime time for you. If you think you're gonna, let's say from this 15 to 21 age, if you think you're gonna finish off whatever you're gonna finish off now, and then you're gonna free up for these things later on, you're only kidding yourself, you're fooling yourself. You're never gonna have more free time than you have now. And your body is never going to have the abilities that it has now. Life is only gonna get busier and your capabilities are only gonna get less. Now, you're not married, for example. Once you get married, then you got time with your wife. Now you don't have anyone saying, if you came to the masjid for 3 hours to memorize the Quran, for example, you don't have anyone calling you up saying, Ammi, where are you? Why don't you spend time with me? I want to speak to a sheikh. I didn't leave my dad's house for this. You don't have anyone doing that. Once you get married, there's a chance that happens. Then you say, okay, after that, inshallah, you have kids. Let's say she grows out of that stage. Okay, now you have kids. Now you want to spend time with your kids, and I need to look after my kids, I want to spend time with my kids, I want to play with my kids. Then you have more kids. Then your bills become more. So you need to end up working more. Life doesn't become easier. And this is one of the tricks of shaitan. وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ. You will constantly be waiting for, again, wishful thinking. That's what the shaitan does, wishful thinking. It will get better, it will get better, it will get better. Perfect time later on, after my HSC. Hala after my semester in uni. Hala after my uni course. Life doesn't get easier. It's only going to get busier and busier and busier. It's only going to get harder and harder and harder. So you need to take advantage of the abilities that you have now. Some of you, tabarakallah, and you can sleep for 4 hours a night and still be a stallion the whole day. Allahumma barik, beautiful. If you can sleep for 4 hours a night, not that I necessarily recommend it, but if a person can sleep for 4 hours a night and pray 2 hours of Qiyam al-Layl, excellent. Because you're going to get to a time very soon, you're going to have to sleep for 1.5 hours a night. And your body's not going to be able to handle those late nights anymore, or those early mornings anymore. You have to balance. You have to balance, but you have to lean more towards those higher priorities. If a person wants to go to the gym for 3 hours a day, I'm not necessarily saying it's haram to go to the gym for 3 hours a day. But as a student of knowledge, again, what are your priorities? We said when it comes to being a student of knowledge, and even wanting to be properly religious, it's not a matter of halal and haram anymore. But it's a matter of what? What's it a matter?
Driving forward.
Driving forward? Allah yahdik. Good and better. Now, good. At least you got the gearbox right this time. Alhamdulillah. It's a matter of good and better. The matter of halal and haram is for the layman. A person who's barely religious, his iman is just passing the exam. He comes to you and says, Sheikh, on Saturdays is it haram if I play soccer with my friends for 5 hours? This person, he says, I have no problem. Why? Because you're worried he's going to get into the haram. But as a student of knowledge, again, your concern should not be, Sheikh, can I play 5 hours of soccer on Saturday? Now, you already know it's halal. But your concern is not just the halal, but what's better. Reduce it, for example, to 3 hours or 2 hours and say, okay, what can I do better in the other 3 hours? So you've got your enjoyment, you've got your relaxation, you've got the exercise, you've given your body its right. you've socialized, you're more relaxed, and this is very important as a student of knowledge. But now it's also time to go back to what's more serious. When you exercise, when you relax, part of the intention is to go to that which is more serious after. Just like when you sleep. You sleep so you can get into things which are more serious. You can rejuvenate your body to get back into that which is serious. Same thing with your enjoyment. When you enjoy or you switch off for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, the intention is, okay, now I want to go back to that which is more serious. So in your prime age, this is when you want to memorize. This is when you want to memorize. Ask a lot of brothers that are like 40 years old or 45 years old, when was the last time you memorized a verse, not a chapter, a verse from the Quran? They can't remember the last time they memorized. Okay, so a lot of you right now, alhamdulillah, you're at that peak age. You're at that peak age where your life is one that's in a state where you have a lot of free time. You don't have many responsibilities. A lot of you are not married, or you don't have children, or your children are very young. You need to take advantage of this time now. You have the ability where Allah Mabarak, and physically, you're fit, mentally, you're free, where you can go and you can invest yourself in this time, especially in the studies. Right now, Allah Mabarak, maybe you can get to a lesson every single night. If you want to be a proper student of knowledge, maybe you can get to a lesson every single night. And your uni is not affected or your work's not affected. But in 5 years' time, Allahu Alam, where you're going to be. If you've got, for example, 3 kids, inshallah, in 5 years' time, you've got 3 kids. These kids sick, your wife has some health issues, maybe your family, your parents are a bit older, they need a bit more attention. You don't know your circumstances later on. So if you can take advantage of it now, take advantage of it. And don't live in wishful thinking. Health and free time. Continue.
Number 170. From Amr bin Maymun, that the Messenger of Allah said to a man while admonishing him.
Amr bin Maymun is actually a tabi'i. He's not a sahabi, but close. And you're learning from your mistakes, but you fell into another mistake. But no issue, Abdul Rahman. You have to make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, these guys don't learn. So you are punching back. What do you call a hadith if a tabi'i says that the Prophet ﷺ narrated? Yeah, it's got a specific name. Mursal? Jayyid. Very good, Allah Barik. The Turkish guy knew. Allah yahdikum. The Arabs, Allah yahdikum. Na'am. Mursal. Okay, if a tabi'i, so you got the Sahaba, then you got the tabi'in, their students, then you got atba' tabi'in, their students. Okay, if a tabi'i says that the Prophet ﷺ said, this is called mursal. Mursal. And this is from the ahadith which are considered weak. There are some exceptions, but these are the ahadith that are considered weak. Why? Because we need to know everyone in the chain of narration. After the companions, we need to know everyone in the chain of narration. So if a tabi'i says that the Prophet ﷺ said, who told you? Which companion told you? Okay? So if he leaves the companion out, then this causes a problem. But this hadith is, I didn't even say the grading that they put here in the English. They put Hassan. Okay. See how they have here? They have Hassan. Why? Because of it being narrated by another, in other narrations, and the companion is mentioned. Okay? So you've got Mursal, which he said, and you've got things like Marfu'. Okay, Marfu' means the chain of narration all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ, or Mawsul, all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. So this particular narration itself may be weak, this particular narration. But then you have other narrations where the complete chain of narration is mentioned, and the Prophet ﷺ, at the end of it, but how it got there is all mentioned. And if that is authentic, then it brings this hadith up. It brings this particular narration up. Okay, so you say it's Hasan, or you can say it's Sahih. Jayyid. So Amr, rahimahullah, is not a Sahabi. So this narration by itself would be weak, because Mursal, but because of the other chains of narration in other books of hadith that are there, and the completion of narration is mentioned, the hadith gets lifted up to being authentic. So this is part of the science of hadith. I can't say to him at the end, I didn't take that one, but ask at the end, inshallah, so the other brothers can benefit. تفضل يا عبد الرحمن.
Take advantage of 5 before 5. your youth before you become old, your health before you become sick, your wealth before you become poor, your free time before you become busy, and your life before you die.
Now, this is again a massive hadith that talks about the importance of taking advantage of what you need before you lose those blessings of your youth, before you become old. And you, Allah Barik, now again, young man, like a stallion, Allah Barik, you go for days, no sleep, no problem. You go and sleep in a shed, no problem. You go and go into a war and then go have coffee after, no problem. You have that ability, Allah Barik. Then you get a little bit older and your knees hurt, your shoulders hurt, your back hurts, your head hurts. It becomes a problem. Now look at these two oldies haram sitting on the chair. Okay? Khalas, it's gone. And the oldies at the back. Now, Saad haram, every time I say Saad, he's got a knee injury. And how did he get injured? Now he's got some weird injury, something in his hip muscle and what sure, from kicking a ball. Khalas. That's it. Allah Barik, Saad used to be a peak athlete. Okay, Allah Alam, gave him the ayn. Hey, he kicks the ball, khalas. His muscles gone, his legs gone, his Allahu Alam out of work, he's still not sure yet. Now this is us as human beings. Okay, when you were younger, Allah Barik, you jump off 10 stories, you land on your neck, la qadr Allah. Hey, you get up, you shake it off and you keep on playing. Now you keep on playing. As you get older, this becomes harder. It becomes harder. Now when you're young, you have no responsibility, you have no care in the world. You sleep at your parents' place, your mum cooks for you, you wake up, you don't pay rent, and you live your life carefree. Do whatever you want. You go and you come and you sleep and you wake up, not a care in the world. Then you have your own house, you got to pay rent, and do you have enough money for this? And your family's going on holiday, can you afford it? And your wife needs this, and your kids need that, and school fees are coming up, and everything's getting more expensive. Now your brain is full of all different responsibilities. All different responsibilities. And okay, now do you need to work more, etc.? You need to take advantage of that youth that you have. You need to take advantage of that youth that you have. And wallah, I love saying, a smart man learns from the mistakes of others. Wallah, a smart man learns from his mistakes. But wallah, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. A genius learns from the mistakes of others. Don't fall into the mistake and then say, oh, wallah, I wish and I wish and I wish. Look at how others are and take advantage of their lessons. What they teach you. Go to anyone now who's 40, 50 years old and say, if you were 20 years old, what do you wish you would have done? And he told you, I would have wished I'd done this and this and this and this and that. And do it. Take his advice. Take from the mistakes that he made and learn from it. Why do you need to say, I'm going to go do whatever I want, and then when I'm 40, 50 years old, I'm going to say to someone else that I meet in the masjid that's 20 years old, bro, when I was your age, I wish I'd done X, Y, Z. Why do you need to fall into that? Take advantage of that from now. Through their mistakes. What they done wrong. What they couldn't achieve. Take advantage of it now. Especially as a student of knowledge. The first one, your youth before you become old. Your health before you become sick. Again, your mind's free, your eyesight's free, your knees are fine, your back is fine, your hearing is fine, your speech is fine, tabarakallah. You have the ability, like I said, to sleep less amount of hours. You can do whatever you want. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Now, I know some brothers, haram, they come, they'll see, it doesn't matter, inshallah, the sheikh is screaming at them. They have to fall asleep. This is how they are, khalas. Their bodies are that frail now, they can't stay awake for anything. Okay? Or their back hurts, their knees hurt. So, unless he's getting a massage as the lesson is going, it's hard for him to pay attention for more than 7 minutes. Okay, it's a problem. Or he's that stressed, okay, mentally, that nothing registers. He'll be sitting looking at you, nodding, but nothing is registering in his mind. If you have that health, alhamdulillah, where you can memorize easy, you can think good, you can pay attention, you can be patient to sit long hours, then ensure that you take advantage of this blessing. Your wealth before you become poor. Oh, big one. Invest. Invest in your deen. As a student of knowledge, invest in it. Some brothers, they spend like $300 on shoes, and if the online teacher charges $15 an hour, he says, no, sorry, I can't afford it. Go invest in your teachers. If you can't get it here in Australia, you have to go online overseas. Go online overseas. You get private teachers, study Arabic language, study the Quran, study Islamic sciences, sign up to courses. Invest in your knowledge. Buy books. Go to the bookstore. Buy books. Read. Invest in what you can. Take advantage of the money that you have now. Now, because time will come where, especially when you have families and the increased cost of living, these things become hara. But when it comes to knowledge, you use it. Sufyan Thawri, he spent all of the inheritance that he got. In our terms, it would have been millions. He spent all of it in the path of knowledge. Many of the ulama, they inherited big amounts. They spent it all in the path of seeking knowledge, whether it was traveling or was buying books, etc. So don't be stingy when it comes to seeking knowledge. Your free time before you become busy. And we mentioned that, especially at your age and your life before you die. Try your best. We're never going to be perfect. Now, but try your best that if you were to die, you don't have regrets. People have bucket lists. If I die now, I'm content. Why? Because he's bungee jumped, for example. Or he jumped out of a plane. At the time of death, you're not going to care, man, I wish I jumped out of a plane. You're not going to care. No, you're not going to care about that. I didn't bungee jump. Again, a person wants to go have enjoyment. Go have enjoyment. You got places you want to visit. Go visit places. You want to travel the world. Travel the world. We're not saying no. But try your best to say, you know what, why didn't I pray my sunnah today? Why? What was the reason I didn't pray sunnah? What was the reason I didn't pray witr? What was the reason I didn't pray in the masjid? What was the reason I didn't read my Quran? What was the reason I didn't give extra in sadaqah? What was the reason I didn't memorize Quran? Don't have that regret. Try your best to make sure you don't have that regret. We all have limitations. We all have different abilities and capabilities. But try your best not to have that. Some people say, I want to be a sheikh, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, why aren't you going to do it? If that's what you want to do, you want to be a sheikh and you want to be involved in da'wah full time. This is what I want to do. Okay, why aren't you sacrificing for it? Why aren't you sacrificing? Or what is in the way of you trading that? I want to memorize the Quran. What's stopping you from memorizing the Quran? Don't have that regret that there's something that you want to achieve and you can achieve it, but you choose not to achieve it. That reason where you choose not to achieve it, make sure it's worth that reason. I wanted to go study in Islamic university. I couldn't. Why? I had to look after my sick mother. No problem. Valid excuse. There was no one else. I had to. No issue. Understood. I wanted to go and pray Fajr and Isha every day in the masjid. I couldn't. Why? Because I've got very bad arthritis. La qaddar Allah. Allah mashfina fi marad al-Muslimin. I've got very bad arthritis, which means I can't get awake in the mornings to leave the masjid. Okay, understood. These are things, a person's not going to regret it. He had a very valid reason. But a person doesn't have a reason. What's your reason? Wallah, I was watching a TV series and I couldn't stop watching it on TV. I was watching the cricket for 7 hours. India versus Pakistan, wala and bara, Allahu Akbar, inshallah the Muslims win. Naam, and I couldn't miss any 2.5 overs. If they can get on K, if you pay $15 a month, again, don't be stingy. I couldn't go play in the masjid, etc. Now, don't have a reason that you're going to regret. And ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to assist you in achieving it. Continue.
Number 171. Ghanim bin Qais, rahimahullah, said, we will take admonition.
Ghunaym. No Ghanim, Ghunaym.
Ghunaym bin Qais said, we will take admonition in the beginning of Islam from the following. O son of Adam, perform deeds in your free time for the time when you will be preoccupied, in your youth for the time when you will become elderly, in your health for the time when you will be sick, in your wealthy life for the time when you will be in the hereafter, and in your life for the time when you will be dead.
No, same meaning. Continue.
Number 172. I recite to Mahmud bin al-Hassan the following verses from his sayings. Take advantage of your youth before you become old, and from your body's health before you become sick, and the days you are alive before death, and the time of the one who lives is not secure. The time of the one who lives is not secure. So take advantage of your free time. At night you may be busy with some affairs, and put forth good deeds, for every person puts forth over some of what he has already put forth from deeds.
In the Arabic, the poetry, you got different types of poetry, some that rhyme at the end, some that don't rhyme. But obviously, when you translate it, it loses a lot of its beauty and its meaning. Who's got a nice voice? No one wants to put their hand up, huh? Who sings to himself and thinks that he sounds like Abdul Basit? No one? And some of the lines, just to give you how it affects differently in the Arabic. بادر شبابك أن يهرم وصحة جسمك أن يسقم وأيام عيشك قبل الممات فما دهر من عاش أن يسلم ووقت فراغك بادر به ليالي شغلك في بعض ما وقدم فكل امرئ قادم على بعض ما كان قد قدم. The way that it sounds, even in the Arabic, has obviously a lot more effect, and the way that the lines are poetry, because poetry in Arabic has rules. Whoever said Ilm al Arud, it's got rules. Okay, so the way that the words that they choose, the stops that they have, etc., they are a lot more profound in the Arabic meaning. And again, this is part of the benefits of studying the Arabic language. Part of the benefits of studying the Arabic language is you're going to, inshallah, get a lot more of an appreciation for these types of things. Take advantage of your youth before you become old, and from your body's health before you become sick, and the days you are alive before death. The time of the one who lives is not secure, so take advantage of your free time. At night you may be busy with some affairs, and put forth good deeds, for every person puts forth over some of what he has already put forth. A person, he doesn't know when he's going to die, and so he wants to live in a way that if he was to die, he hopes that he has done enough to get to Jannah. That's his hope. But if a person can honestly say to himself, I believe if I was to die now that I have not done enough to go to Jannah, wallah, this is a very, 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 very state to be in. Because that person should constantly be living in a state that if I was to die, which is a very strong reality, no one knows when he's going to die. It's a very strong reality. I believe based on my actions, put the mercy of Allah on the side for a second. I believe based on my actions that I'm not going to Jannah today. I don't pray. I haven't given my zakat in 5 years. My parents are very angry with me. I do with riba. I take drugs. The past week I've committed zina. I gamble. I drink alcohol. I haven't repented to Allah. I've ripped people off. As an example, the person says, I actually believe if I was to die now, I'm not going to Jannah. This is a very, very, very scary place to be in. And how anyone sleeps on that, wallah, I'm not sure how. Allah, it's a massive issue. Different to the one who says, I hope from Allah that if I was to die now, I'll go to Jannah. I've prayed, I've done my afkar, I've read my Quran, I've given in sadaqah, my parents hopefully are pleased with me, I've given the rights to people, people that I've oppressed, I've returned that oppression or that right that I took off them, I've given it back. I try and have good character, I ask Allah for forgiveness daily, etc., etc., etc. That I hope if I was to die now, that I get to paradise. At least be on that level. At least be on that level. Where you hope that you're not going to go to Jannah. A person has no idea. Just this past week, how many people have died that didn't expect it? The two Muslims in Melbourne, the ones that died on the motorbike. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on all of the believers. They were at a family gathering, motorbike, boom, they died. The dad went, Allahu alam how now he's in a coma. The dad went after hearing the crash, also he ended up injured. In Liverpool, non-Muslims, I think they were islanders, they're driving up one way, another car comes and hits them. Brother and sister are dead. The other kids in Brighton, out of nowhere. Playing these people, no one's expecting death. These are all young people. No one's expecting to die. Their families aren't expecting them to die. Some of them that have passed in the past month or two. Some of the young men, they've got 2-3 children. These are people that others would look from the outside, that these have their whole lives in front of them. No one's expecting to die, especially for those Allah that have children. May Allah Azza bless you and bless your children and grant you long life of goodness. No one expects, I'm going to die and my son's like 3 years old or 5 years old or 10 years old. No one expects that. People are expecting, when I get older and how I'm going to be as a grandparent, and inshallah you're going to name your grandchildren this, and I'm going to name my grandchildren that, and inshallah we're going to do this in this year and that in that year. People are planning as if they're going to live for 1,000 years. And then out of nowhere, subhanAllah, they die. Out of nowhere they die. ففعلا a person has no idea when he's going to pass away. So what does he need to do? So he should hasten to ensure that he does good deeds, and he should prefer certain actions over others. What are those actions? Those actions are actions of good deeds. Finish the last narration, inshallah, and then we'll stop there.
Number 173. Narrated to us from Al-A'mash that he said, I heard them mentioning from Zuhayr that he once saw some of his neighbors wondering about aimlessly. So he said to them, what is the matter with you? They replied, we have free time today. So he said, is this what the one with free time was ordered to do?
Yani, you're wasting your life? Yeah, okay, alhamdulillah, if you have free time, this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take advantage of that blessing. Take advantage of that blessing. And you have free time. Most people, when they have free time, what are they going to do? To be realistic, we're going to sit on our phones. This is the majority of people. They're going to sit on their phones. Okay, no problem. You sat on your phone. How long are you going to sit for? Let's say, okay, 1 hour. No problem. You watched something, you enjoyed something, you played something. No problem. As long as within the realm of the halal, you enjoyed yourself. But 3, 4, 5 hours sitting down, and then you wake up 3, 4, 5 hours as well. Even when you're at work, 3, 4, 5 hours, is that what you were created for? Is that what you're committed in your free time? We need to find that balance. We need to find that balance. I'm not going to say, brothers, at night time you sleep for 6 hours, you pray 2 hours of Qiyam al-Layl, you can have a little bit of a rest if you want, you come to the masjid, you pray in the masjid, you do your afkar and you read Quran until shuruq, you go to work, you work hard, when you finish work, you come back to the masjid, you sit in the lesson. I'm not going to say this is how you need to be. Now, but be productive in your life. Be productive in your life. You need to do things productively, religiously. You have spare time, pray. What's wrong with praying? An hour or 2 hours, half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it is. Read Quran, not just a page or two. A page or two is if you're just getting religious. No problem. Read a page or two if you're just getting religious. But alhamdulillah, you've been religious for 6 months, you've been religious for a year. You should be reading a lot more than a page or two a day. Memorize Quran, be in the lessons if you got time. Be in the lessons every single day. Come to the masajid. Come to the masjid for as much of the salawat as you can. Make sure your parents are happy with you. Make sure you keep the tie of kinship. If alhamdulillah, you've done your religious things, have worldly enjoyment, but let it be productive. Go to the gym, go boxing, go MMA, go BJJ, go horse riding, go fishing. Do something productive. You got free time, do something productive. Even if it's you and your friends, do something social, where at least there's some brotherhood there. Don't overdo it. Don't tell me, khalas, the Sheikh said that, I'm going to spend, again, the whole Saturday fishing and boxing and hanging out with my mates and do nothing from deen. No, keep that balance. Keep that balance. And if you have something where you're wasting time, whether you're going to sleep for an extra hour, you're going to zone off on your phone for an hour, whatever it is, even when you do that, have your intention, I'm relaxing, I'm zoning out, so I can refresh, I can restart back into things that are serious. And even that can become an act of worship. As long as, again, it's halal. But that should be, again, like salt and pepper in the food. Salt and pepper in the food. If you have too much salt and pepper, what happens? The food becomes what? يصير عندك diabetes. That's sugar. That's sugar. Yeah, bad blood pressure. So now, if you go home, for example, and your wife put too much salt in the food, does she do a lot of bad salt in the food?
No, she puts a little bit.
Good. Yani, her food's all very excellent. You're very good, tabarakallah. I tried to get you. Whenever I ask you questions about other things, you fail. But when it comes to your wife, Allah barik 100%. Allahumma barik. I think, ahsant. So this is what I mean by when you get married, khalas, your brain goes. Your brain goes. Everything was wrong. All of his head's always wrong. But when it came to his wife, because haram, she's always on his mind. Always on his mind, tabarakallah, 100%. He didn't have to think twice about it, tabarakallah. May Allah bless you in your marriage and your offspring. For a person, when it comes to salt and pepper in the food, this is like a sprinkle. And even if you put a little bit more, you don't put to the extent where it wrecks the food. If you have too much salt, what ends up happening? It wrecks the whole meal. So you got to be very, very, very careful. Same thing with your enjoyment or your relaxation. You don't have that much of it where it wrecks your life. Your deen, you didn't achieve anything. And your dunya, you didn't achieve anything. You have your deen, which is the number one priority. You have your worldly productive enjoyment, which is the second. And then there's a little bit of that wasting time, if you will, but your intention is as a rejuvenation. And with that, inshallah, with that, you'll be able to proceed. And you'll be decent for Australia, for Australian level. The ones that want a higher level, you're gonna have to even sacrifice more. That's the reality. The ones that want a higher level, especially the ones that want to get to that sheikh level, inshallah, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot more than that. But at least for us, in the Australian context, this is a diet plan that we can stick to, inshallah. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.